Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome. Welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Suki Kaur. Suki is a medium, and she has always had the awareness of spirit, but did not understand who they were or how anyone would teach her. So she really started exploring her gifts in her 30s when she felt the calling to be more than what she was. She found she had a natural ability to connect with loved ones. Then, starting doing angel card readings, she developed into healing sessions and led channelings and connection to star beings and dimensional connections. And this evolution left her with an ever inquisitive mind. So, if you want to know more about where things come from, how to connect from a place of love, how to interact with star beings, and learn to go deeper into spirituality as a human being, her work leads her with the person's energy and just then deciphers their needs. So she helps them get to the seed of their upset or their support and supports them through a healing journey. Suki is there with the knowledge and understanding to help people move forward and shine. So, welcome, Suki. Welcome to the Infinite Way.
Thank you, Enolia. It's been, I know you've been chasing me for months.
Yes,
We're
I
finally
have. I'm
here.
so excited to have you here. I'm like, will you come? Sure, I'll come. Will you come? Sure, I'll come. But I couldn't get you. I couldn't get to you. And it's so great to have you here. And there's so many
Thank
things that I
you.
want to ask you and talk to you about. But let's get a little bit of your background and your story because I know that you have a plethora of gifts. Is this something that started from childhood? Is this something that started really, really late? Did you know it in childhood but weren't encouraged? Like, talk to us a little bit about how you came into your to stand in your truth.
Um, as I was a young child, I was one of those children that had the imaginary friends, but I didn't have an understanding of who these imaginary friends were, and I just interacted with them all the time. I could see shadows, I could see orbs, but it wasn't something that I shared particularly. It was just something that I observed. And I always had the ability to tap into people's emotions. I just sort of automatically knew that person was really sad or that person was struggling with something, and I think I saw that in a colorway around their body, which later on, I found out it was their auric field or their, their what do you call them, their chakra centers. So my I think I come from a lineage of women on my mother's side because my mom's quite intuitive, but she's always denied it. And little stories that she tells about my grandmother, who I never saw while she was alive, she was quite intuitive as well. But my dad's very open-minded and intuitive that way too. So it wasn't something that was talked about. It was just something that I observed when I was young.
Um, Okay. And so that's knowing that that's taken place and understanding that those abilities were there. Sometimes they're
Mm,
not accepted with our families. Like I came from a
mm,
family where my mom would actually talk about her intuitiveness and my sister
yeah.
would talk about her intuitiveness. And I always felt kind of left out, like I'm not intuitive or I don't have this gift that they had. And they were always kind
Mm,
of talking between, and I was like this third party. And you have to understand that
yeah.
my sister was 15 years older than me, right? So it was like the two
Uh-huh.
adults talking, and I was the child in the center going, what about me? What about me? But how was it for you? How was it in terms of your family? Did you even share with your family that this was taking place, or is this something you had to hide?
I never shared it with my family. I sort of shared it through my artwork. I really enjoyed art, and it was that's how I expressed the energy that I was seeing. So I would express what I could see in my mind's eye on paper, and really desperately try and explain it to my art teacher, who'd look at me, sort of tap me on the head and say, that's good. And what go on to the next student, with me knowing he just didn't get it. He just didn't get it, how I was trying to explain these waves of energy and vibration. And even I didn't know that, because I use those words now, energy and vibration and frequency, but I had
Mm.
no understanding then. And it wasn't something that I discussed in the family. I'm the oldest of eight. And I had a lot of responsibilities from quite young for helping my mom with my younger siblings. So it wasn't something I had time for either. It wasn't until later on, many years later, after I was going through a difficult divorce, that I started exploring all of these. And I used to have experiences of spirit, and have a knowing and a knowledge that there was a spirit in the house, and who I used to pick them up as to who they were, because I'd just say, "Okay, who's here?" Again, not knowing that I was actually inter connecting with somebody from spirit form. And I think my curiosity got the better of me, and I just started to read books and explore. And then and it's when you are stepping, I always say, when you are stepping into something, the teachers and the opportunities and the guidance is there for you. And it just developed naturally from there. I'd meet somebody at an event, like a mind, body, spirit event, and they'd say, "Oh, have you heard of this teacher?" And I'd go and have a class with them. And that's how I expanded my knowledge over the years.
It's amazing that you were able to view this as a child starting and not mention the emotion of how maybe fear might have played a role in it, because
Mm.
typically as a child, and children, children are experiencing this today. This is why it's so important to have these podcasts.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but did the emotion of fear play a role in anything that you were encountering when you were coming up? And even as an adult, because sometimes the adults will shut down, and like you just said, your mom
Mm.
just didn't acknowledge it. She just denies it because fear plays a role, or they don't want people, the perception of how people will see them plays a role. All these
Yeah.
factors play a role.
I think I skipped the fear aspect of it, because my mom's very fearful about what community will say, what the neighbours will think, and that was the whole fear around
Okay.
her construct of connecting with spirit and having spiritual conscious experiences. For me, I was just, okay, why is that happening? I need to know more. I had that frame of mind as to, I wanted to know more. I wanted to explore it. I wanted to have answers, and wherever I got those answers from, it never seemed to be enough. It was always, yes, but why is that? And why is that? I was one of those nosy children that wanted to know everything.
You and me both, right? So here you are, you have a gift, or you have a series of gifts, because what you name could literally go in any directions. What
Mm.
made you embrace the direction that you went with your gift, which is mediumship, versus many other things that you could have possibly embraced?
I think mediumship gave me the most, it provided the most help and support, because I'm a bereavement counselor, and I married the two, the mediumship and the skills that I'd learned as a counselor, and the skills and the understanding I had as a psychologist, studying psychology. Um, it was marrying the three mediums that I found that it had the most impact on the individual, to help them to move forward. It was always about, what can I do? How can I help this individual to move forward? What skills from my basket do I need to pick out in order to help that person?
What was it like to be a bereavement counselor? Okay, so I as a shaman, okay,
Mm,
I've helped some people cross over. And I've also
yeah.
seen and met with people who have just had someone cross over. And lots of times
Mm,
their loved ones are still with them. So every once in a while, And for me,
Yeah.
it's not consistent. I would see, if a woman had just lost her son, that was so strong. I would see the son standing behind her,
Mm,
holding on to her, saying, please, please stop crying.
yeah.
Please stop being depressed. Please stop,
Mm.
and then getting the nerve up to finally say something to that person. But I can't imagine what it was like being a bereavement counselor where that's what's taking place all the time. Did you always see their loved ones? What was that like?
Um, I could see their loved ones, not as if like in the sixth sense, somebody standing there in front of me, but I sensed it in my mind's eye. And when I would sit there in the session, and I wouldn't with unless the person actually booked a session with me where they wanted that part of they wanted the mediumship included in the session. It would purely be a counseling session, for example, a bereavement session where I was helping them navigate themselves through their grief. But when I pick up their loved ones and they'd nudge me a little bit, internally, spiritually, and say, "Oh, remind her about this.
Hmm.
Remind her about this because this will help her to move forward." Now, it's like having a third person in the room, but the client doesn't know that they're there. And I would never, that's a rule you don't break. You don't bring something into the session that the client has not signed up for, basically. So I would sort of say, oh, tell me about some holidays that you went with your husband, and tell me about the good times. Because when you remind somebody that there was good times during that person's life that they lived with them, and it's not just the grief that is in, they are drowning in at the moment, it helps them to distill the grief a little bit. You never get over the death of a loved one. You learn to live with it, but then you allow yourself to bring in the happy memories when that person was alive, when that person was well. You're not stuck in that moment when that person's in hospital and they've got tubes coming out everywhere, and you're in that state of fear. It's about reminding that person that you spent however many years with this individual who physically may not be here, but the love never goes. And it's about helping that individual reconnect to the love so that they can live with the loss of that individual.
Yeah, yeah. So bring us into your practice today and your mediumship today. Tell us a little bit about the type of work that you do with clients.
Um, I do a lot of counseling, stroke healing, stroke mediumship, stroke helping the individual to connect. Each session is unique. Um, the individual might come in and I'll say, okay, we're going to include healing as part of this session. So while they are sitting there talking to me about the issues and I'm picking up on loved ones, they're also receiving healing. But I also always introduce the healers that are in the room to that client so that they are aware and they are open to the healing. Some sessions may be just purely an aspect of mediumship where I might pick up their loved one. For example, I I was at an event and this mother and daughter booked me, and they sat down, and as soon as they sat down, I visualized, I could see this gentleman in a biker's jacket and jeans and heavy boots, and I described him completely, and they were just sitting there, and all the things that I was saying, that I was being communicated with by their loved one, and it was all flowing out of me verbally, and they were in tears, and then there was laughter, and then there was joy, and then there was a sense of he's okay, because that's all they needed to know to put themselves at ease, which is why they came to the session. And even myself didn't expect such a clear channel to come through, because he was so excited to meet them again, but yet so distressed as well, because he had chosen not to stay on this earth, and he was so apologetic, and yet they understood the trauma that he'd gone through as a living person, and how that finally took him to the next part of his journey. but it was afterwards when I got a message from the daughter, and she said that she was so grateful because her mom had finally stepped out of the shadow of grief that had been consuming her. And she said, you don't realize the impact it's had on us. And then I saw them a year later, because I was at the event a year later, and they come up to me and goes, remember us? And some clients you'd remember very clearly. And I said, oh yes. I said, your father was the biker. And she said, yes. And she said, we did this and we did this and we did this, because the validation for them was, while they were driving to this event, they were talking about going to Australia, which was a country that the father always wanted to go to, and he particularly wanted to do the surfing. So to validate that it was actually him, he said, "Tell them I was listening. I was sitting in the back seat, and he wasn't very impressed with the daughter's driving, and I had to tell her so." And that he heard them talking about Australia, and for me to tell them and communicate to them, you need to take that trip. So when I met them again, they were telling me all about this trip to Australia and how, they celebrated life rather than sat in the grief and the pain and the loss that they'd been sitting in for some time. And those are
Right.
the that's the reason I do it.
You absolutely should do it that reason. And I'm going to tell you a little story that I actually encountered because it changed the course of my life. When I didn't really understand much about spirituality and I don't know, I was probably in my 30s also. Was I? Yeah, I was in my 30s and I went to Angelica, New York, and I was working corporate, doing the normal thing. And the wives got together every once in a while and we go to Angelica and we just go, antiquing. And this particular weekend that we went, there was a medium that was supposed to be there. And at the time, I didn't even know what a medium was. Okay. And so, she was supposed to be there. And so we had hung out. We went in antiquing for the day, shopping and everything. And it was time for dinner. She was going to be right after dinner. So, there we are in this main, beautiful Victorian, restored home. That's an Airbnb that we're there for the weekend. And they had a beautiful staircase. So we decided we all wanted to take a picture on the staircase, and there's like 12 of us. So I asked this woman dressed up, would she take a picture of us? And she said yes. And so she took a picture of us. And then, she gave me back the camera. And then, we went to eat. But the woman wouldn't take her eyes off me, right? And then so we're sitting there and we're having a meal, and I'm sitting next to my friend Susan, and I'm like, Susie, do you see this? This woman is staring at me. And she's like, yeah, she is staring at you. And she wouldn't take her eyes off me. And I'm like feeling so uncomfortable. I could feel like the hair is raising on the back of my neck, right? So after that, then the owner of the Airbnb in the Victorian beautiful home decides to introduce the medium, and it's the woman. It's the woman who's been
Mm,
staring at me. And while she's standing there, the lights flicker, and she's like, "Oh, that happens with me." And we're all like really flipping, the 12 of us, because we go there all the time. We know where the lights are for that particular light that just flickered, and we know that
mm,
nobody was there and it never flickers, and we're there all the time, right? So we're like, okay, right? We're watching her, and she's talking and introducing herself, but she's still staring at me. And finally, like 10 minutes into her speech, she turns around and she says, okay, I know that I've been staring at you. Hallelujah. At least she acknowledges she's been staring at me. She said to me, there's an entourage around you and they won't let me take my eyes off you. I'm doing you first. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? You're doing me first. So she
mm,
sits me in a chair and she stands behind the chair and she puts her arms on my shoulders and she proceeds to tell me about my mom's sisters, what they expect of me, to keep my music, that I was too closed and that I needed to open up because they can't communicate with me. And that
mm,
was it, Suki. That's
mm,
all that had to be told to me. I was lost in like a dream state. She went through and worked with everybody in the whole room, and it was about 30 people, right? So that was about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours later. I didn't hear anyone. All I heard was me. And all I
mm,
knew was that I had to open myself up because I adored my mom. I
mm,
adored her. And for her to tell me I was too closed, I started reading what's your spirit guide, who's your spirit guides, here are auras, lucid dreaming, blah blah, anything I could get my hands on. And that
Yeah.
actually was the precipice that pushed me to
Mm,
that piece.
mm.
So what you say, it changes people's lives, especially when you're coming
It
from a
does.
place
Mm.
of like needing love and needing to hear from that loved one, you
Yeah.
know.
And you have to work from a platform of integrity and honesty and compassionately. It's not a place for you to bring your ego in and say, oh, look at me, I can do this and I can do that, and disregard your client's wishes, and even the wishes of those in spirit. When they say no, 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 don't go there, you have to be totally aware of that and compliant with that as well, because it's not about me. It's about the person sitting in front of me. I'm simply the go-between, because I'm able to open my channels, probably maybe a little bit more than the person sitting in front of me. But
Mhm.
everybody, has got the capability to, and people have probably heard this 100 times, but it's absolutely true. You do have the capability to connect with your loved ones yourselves, because the frequency of love, there's no barriers, there's no boundaries to it. And you can sit there, for example, and think of a loved one, and put your hand on your heart and close your eyes, and you'll be flooded with that feeling of love from that individual. And you'll start to think about um conversations you had with them and places that you went with them. That's communication that you are having with that loved one. It's as simple as that. Not to overcomplicate mediumship or spirituality or anything like that. Just keep it simple.
So I'm sitting here thinking about where to take this, and I actually want to go there. So let's talk about that other side for a little bit. Being in
Mm,
timelessness, and that's what I call it. I call it being in timelessness. Now,
hmm.
for our level setting our audience, is that it's like that vertical. It's the place that you go to pray. It's the place that you go inward. And you may be atheist, but it's still you still seek yourself inward, and it's that
Yes.
place that you go. Go ahead.
Even an atheist has received love, hopefully, from
Yeah,
a loved one. And it's not about religion. It's not about
adoption at all,
indoctrination
really. Yeah.
or any of that. It's just step back from that, and just allow yourself to be open that there is more than this existence and this life. There's an infinite amount of more. We just don't realize it.
And then the ability to be able to work within timelessness for healing, because that's really what I do. Is I love to work
Mm,
within timelessness to do the energetic healing and working in that way, but to walk the path of being able to see loved ones and those on the other side. My question would be like, is there a point where you ever feel overwhelmed with it? Because I find that our lights
mm,
shine all over. And then what happens is that many are attracted. And as soon as they realize that you
yeah.
are have the ability to see them and communicate with them, they want you to get the message to
Yeah.
those that they love. And I've
Mm.
actually had to ask for my spirit guides to say, okay, unless it's for my highest and greatest good, we have to stop this, because I would
Yeah.
find things like being tripped and there's nothing there to trip me,
Mm, mm,
dropping keys and then going to pick them up and they're not there, and then going back to, looking like 5 minutes later and there they are as if they've been there the whole time. It's like, no, I know better than that.
mm,
Or taking the battery out of the smoke detector, walking past the smoke detector, to go get another battery or whatever, and it still beeps. And it
mm.
beeps every time I pass it, but there's no
Yeah.
battery in it. Like,
Yeah, because
okay, I get it.
your energy field is it's hard to describe, but your energy field is so powerful. And when you are connected and present with yourself in that energy field, it's it's timeless and it's ageless as well. So you are in this space of complete knowing and stillness and openness and in a state of complete connection to the self and everything else as well. And but then how do you get there? How that's the question most people ask. Well, how do I get there? Um, and I always say to my clients, 5 minutes in the day, take 5 minutes out in the day and just sit in your favorite place in the home, in the garden, even in your car. Just close your eyes and just, that's it. Just close your
Yes,
eyes
I
and just
agree.
listen to your heartbeat. Observe yourself breathing and just release any tension, however you want to visualize it, or just allow your body to relax. You do that in on a regular basis, and you will find that where previously situations, people, conversations may have irritated you, or and you may have been drawn in emotionally into that state, you sit back and you think, okay, it's not bothering you anymore because you're no longer attaching yourself to that drama. You're in you're in your place of stillness. You are in your state of um it's like a happy nothingness.
Yes, yes.
But then life, we all of us have got busy lives, all of us have got our own stresses and challenges, but despite them, you can still be in that space where you are connecting with you, you are connecting with source, you are in that space of stillness, and it recharges you. You don't have to sit under a mango tree with your legs crossed for 20 hours, singing Om to get to that
No.
place. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to gift yourself that time and do it on a regular basis. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 5 minutes in the evening before you go to bed. Whenever you feel the need to I just need to touch base and touch base with yourself and ask
So,
yourself, are you okay? Am I
yeah.
okay today? What's bothering me today? And it is finding that space, and you'll soon find you'll have images of your mom or your dad or your sister or your best friend almost like pop up in your mind, and
Okay.
their spirit is saying to you, well, have you done this? Did you remember to do this? Because when's the last time you took a break? So these messages will start coming to you, and it's you understanding and trusting and listening to them. Does this feel right? Is this from a place of love? And it's as simple as that.
So how do you work with engaging so many different people and knowing that your gift is there and every encounter can just bring forward your gift,
Mm,
and it's
yeah.
just like, how do I pull back from that because I don't want to know
Mm.
everybody's stuff.
No, and one of my things is I'm a natural empath, so I link in with that person emotionally on the first level. So you have to be very aware that you can't leave yourself open and switched on to communication and spirit and all of this all the time, because very quickly you'll find you're going to burn out, and you have to be strict with yourself, because it's nice to be able to sit there in a group of friends and say, oh, I know this about you and I can pick up this about you and that about you, but that's quite an invasive um thing for you to do, because nobody's asked you. Do you know what I mean? You have to be very mindful that, and it's for your own energetic peace of mind as well, not to be open all the time and have a way of s closing yourself down. It's like, imagine that you've got a remote control to your connection to spirit and you press the off button. I'm not engaging now. I'm off duty. I need my me time.
Right, right. So I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit, and I want to talk about the fact that we are in a crazy, chaotic world.
Mm,
And the number one thing that resonates with me is that we need to be able to acknowledge the fact that energies are coming in. There's solar flares
yeah.
coming in. There's
Mm,
the Schumann resonance, I think, had like two actually gaps in it, which are really significant for us, you
yeah.
know. And so, with all of these energies coming in, and people are getting symptoms and whatnot, I want you to share with your insight what that means to us, okay? And this ability, because for me, I look at it as this: I walk the path of life, but I refuse to engage in the front line.
Mm,
I don't need to be actively making myself crazy with every single situation that's got to be fought
yeah.
for, got to be this. There are people who are fighting for X, and there
Mm,
are people for
mm,
fighting for Y, and I get to choose where I take my stand. And my stand, at least for me, is to be the light and be that lighthouse where people can come out of the storm and rejuvenate and be
yeah.
inspired. And then if they choose to
Mm,
go back out there, great. But that's how I choose to execute my skills, my ability to help and assist in the world. You
mm.
know, so I kind of want to talk about what the energies are doing to people and then how to navigate.
We are being bombarded by multiple levels of energy. The energy that we pick up from each other, which is mainly a sense of fear. You go out and you're sensing people's fear, you're sensing people's anxiety, you're sensing people's uncertainty about what's going out in the world. Then you've got the energies of the solar flares and the Schumacher residents, all of that um invisible energy, shall we say. It's like Wi-Fi energy or microwave energy or electricity. You know it's there, but you can't see it, but you can feel it. That's what's happening. But it affects us on a physical basis. Like we have situations where you may be really tired, you don't get enough sleep, you're constantly thirsty, or you're wanting to eat certain foods, you're drawn to eat certain foods that you may not normally eat. You're mentally exhausted from fighting, consciously and subconsciously, fighting the energies that are bombarding us all the time. And it does feel at the moment that we are being fried morning, noon, and night with so much that we just want to hide away. We some of us don't even want to get out of bed in the mornings because the exhaustion and the fatigue and the confusion and the sense of something's not right, but I don't know what it is. It's just a knowing. At this time, the best thing we can do is, first of all, switch off the news. There's never anything good in the news. It's about not putting yourself in a position where you are being bombarded by more negativity, more negative news. There's this war going on, and then that war started, and this has happened, and that has happened. In your universe, in your world where you are sitting, there's nothing that you can do directly to make a change to what's going on out there. But if you disconnect yourself from the fear, you're not feeding that energy, which is causing all of these anxieties. You need to be able to give yourself rest when you need, drink when you need. And I'm not saying drink alcohol and take drugs. I mean drinking clean water, eating as clean as possible. But again, listening to your body. And if your body says, oh gosh, I really fancy a steak, and you're a vegetarian and you're really craving something, your body is telling you, I need this to fuel so I can fight off the energies that are bombarding you at the moment. So we need to have an understanding of that as well. There's also the impact of connection to human connection. we've all got people in our family who never seem to see the positive in anything, and they drag our energy down when we are already feeling battered and bruised from what we are going through on a day-to-day basis. So be mindful of the time that you spend with such people, because they are simply just draining what little energy that you have left. So you have to conserve what you're doing and recharge yourself at the best of times. Yes, you might have a sink full of dishes that need washing, but what's more important, your rest, because the dishes will still be there when you've rested, and then you'll be better be able to tackle that with a clearer mind, because brain fog, as they're calling it, I'm finding that is quite one of the main symptoms at the moment. I'll leave this room and I'll go into my lounge, or and I'll walk into the lounge and I'm like, what did I come in here to get? And I'll come back into this room and I'll remember why I left the room, but by the time I've left the room again, I've forgotten what I went in for. And that is part of the brain fog that we are feeling, that we're slipping into different timelines, we're slipping into different frequencies. So the main thing is not to be afraid. This change that we are going through is, you can't avoid it.
And can
You
you
have
talk a
to.
little bit more about the frequencies that we're slipping into and the paradigm shift? Because I think people need to hear that from a perspective, from a mediumship perspective.
From a medium perspective, it's some of you may have heard about the timeline shifts, and that we are entering what astrologers and astronomers are saying is the golden age. And with any change, when we are going through that transition of change from one frequency to another, there is disruption. But
Right.
what a frequency is simply it can be a physical frequency, an emotional frequency. It can be a frequency of a sound that we hear, but it's a vibration that the is source centered. This vibration is source centered. So the source, whether you want to call them God, whether you want to call it Jesus, the Christ energy, which a lot of people are referring this frequency to, it's coming down and it's helping us to uplift ourselves. And while we are being uplifted, we have to get rid of the crap that we are holding on to. And that is part of the change in the frequency. A change in the frequency can be from being angry at somebody to being forgiving. And for being, that's a shift in frequency. It's an emotion, but the emotion is still based on a frequency. So you could be angry at somebody that you feel may have wronged you or said something about you, and then all of a sudden you think, do you know what? I'm going to leave it alone, because I don't want to spend my energy hating on that person or being vengeful against that person. I'm going to step away from this and look after things that are important to me. So frequency is anything that we are being attracted to, or we are being involved in, or we are sitting in, that is not making us uncomfortable, but we have to go to a place where we we feel free from it. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does make sense. And I don't know if this is putting you on the spot, but I would really love for you to tap in and talk to our audience a little bit. So you have this fear, you have this fear of using AI. Should I use
Mm.
AI? Shouldn't I use AI? Are we really escalating into our next paradigm, where everything's going to be okay, and then all of this
Mm.
bombardment of I shouldn't use AI, it's just fear and distraction or not, you know, help me to see the light on the other side in terms of what that may look like. Are we actually witnessing and going through history in and of
Mm.
itself right at this
Mm.
moment? And all we have to do is sit still and let these things pass by us. Or is there something, because people are asking me, is there something I should be doing? And to me, it's like you should be holding the light. So
Yes, yes.
what are your
Mm.
thoughts in terms of tapping in?
Artificial intelligence, from my understanding, is we we can't avoid it. Artificial intelligence is not there to take over from us because we are part of source. We are the spark of source. And artificial intelligence is a construct, is something that we have created, that is there to support us through this development as a human race. We are going through a huge amount of evolution. Whether people can see that, because it's a physical evolution, it's an emotional evolution, it is a spiritual evolution, it's an evolution of frequency where we are going from a place of fear and hate and war and division, where we are heading, we are transitioning with the help of artificial intelligence, because the AI is helping us to understand and ask for us to ask questions. The artificial intelligence at this moment is um it's nothing that we should fear. We need to be able to utilize the abilities that artificial intelligence gives us in order to open our minds and to see that there is another way. It's a form of support that we have, and taking us forward in 100 years, looking back, artificial intelligence today is us looking back 20 years and thinking, oh my gosh, our mobile phones were so big. They were like a brick. And some people were afraid to use mobile phones. And now you can't find, almost everybody has got a mobile phone. And look how much that technology has evolved. And it is still evolving. 5 years down the road, you still won't recognize what we have today to what we have 5 years. Artificial intelligence is a tool for us to use to help us with the evolution that we are going through. We can't avoid it. There's no opt-out clause for us. We have opted in by being here physically as spiritual beings, as souls. We opted in to be here at this time to help with the transition, because there's many people out there who don't understand, why am I tired all the time? Why do I feel like I can't think straight? Why is my body aching? Why do I feel sick if I eat a certain food? And they need to have a platform, and artificial intelligence is a way to support them so that they can ask the questions and receive the answers in order to help them move forward. We have no choice in what's happening at the moment. We have to simply accept, not lie down and just let it overwhelm us, because we have to be doing something. And the something, as you have said, is to keep ourselves grounded and present in mind, body, and spirit. We can't all be thinking that I've got some special mission that I have to do. I have a um I have something that I have to fulfill. That, if there is something that you are meant to do, you will be guided to that point naturally. Whether you decide to get to that point with free will, or whether you are led there because that's your purpose. Most people at this moment, their purpose is to simply be present and be grounded, and not allow themselves to be drowned in the fear, however that fear is wrapped up in.
Right.
And to
Right.
keep yourselves as, when I say pure of thought, pure of mind, pure of body, it's whatever works for you. Because what works for you may not work for me.
Right.
And how I conduct myself in an energetic way on a day-to-day basis may not be something that you understand, but what works for you, that's perfectly fine. We haven't got the luxury at the moment to sit back and say, I'll do it next week. No. You can't do
Okay.
it next week. It's every moment of your life where you are today is important, and you need to make it. You need to be able to understand that you are important, and you do have a purpose, and your purpose is simply to be here, be the observer, and be the and be the person to support the frequency and the energy that takes us into this completely into this golden era where there is no war, there is no division, there is no hatred. But that's a transition. It's not going to happen overnight.
And then, I sit back and I think about the fact that I've had conversations with professionals who talk about the Galactic Council, who talk about terrestrials,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that we are a class 3 civilization, which means that we have the capability to evolve to one of these class 1 terrestrials. And that meaning that, there are civilizations that are able to embody the technology, stay in balance, live a harmonious
Mhm.
life. And yes,
Yeah.
nobody's perfect. So they have their people who are, or they have their beings that are descendant amongst their civilization, but that
Mm.
they have risen to the occasion. And that maybe that's what we're going through, is that we're finally lifting the veil, because they consider us a class 3 civilization behind the veil. And the behind the veil is
Mm.
that our government is running around secretively knowing all of the
Yeah.
capabilities of how we can raise the vibration of our whole civilization, but they
Mhm.
just choose not to allow it or expose it. And that eventually, whether they like it or not, that veil will be lifted, and then everything will be exposed, and we'll either rise to the occasion, and those who don't want to be here just won't be here. How does that
Mm.
how does that sit with that thought?
At the moment, pardon me, at the moment, there's huge holes in the veil appearing where people are having experiences that they can't um they can't explain, and a lot of people are won't even mention the experiences that they are having because they don't want to be labeled as crazy or you have some sort of label stuck on them that it instigates fear within them, and fear that of other people looking at them and saying, oh, that person got um abducted by aliens, keep away from them, they're weird. We are
Right.
all having these experiences, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. The veil that you are speaking of is a multi-layered veil. First of all, the veil is between our conscious and subconscious, where the veil is thinning, where we are becoming more superhuman, shall we say, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And that's the evolution in itself. The spiritual veil between loved ones, between the veil where our loved ones are living and where we are living on this side, that is becoming thinner as well. So a lot more people are communicating with their loved ones through that frequency and through that veil. But then there's the veil between the interdimensional elements where we are communicating with light beings, where we are communicating with ETs, from want of a better word, but they're not our enemy. They are not our enemies. Well, the majority of them are not our enemies. They are here to help us because to them, we're like children. We all of a sudden, we're learning to walk, but they don't want us to walk too quickly that we fall over and bump our head against the table. So they are helping us to understand the where we are heading and how this is happening to us, because it is happening to us collectively. The ones that don't want to go through this evolution and everything is connected to free will, yes, they will be leaving. They will be leaving their physical body and they will be transitioning to the other side of the veil to live the rest of their lives. And that is a choice that they are making because nothing is against their free will. But for the rest of us who are here, it's exciting. It's about wow, we are birthing a new planet, and we are here to to be part of that journey and to go through that evolutionary step where we are becoming from where we were Homo sapiens from a particular level, but now we are becoming ourselves enlightened and light bodies, and our DNA is changing, our physical structure is changing, our consciousness is expanding to the point where we are knowing and thinking beyond boundaries that are falling away. And this is the transition that we are going through. We are simply navigating, bumping into things and falling over and scraping our knees and getting hurt, but we're getting up again because we have to go through this journey. We have that responsibility, and we've taken that responsibility on. Now, halfway through, somebody might say, this is too much, I can't deal with this, and they choose to transition. And that is their choice, or they are transitioned because it is too much for them. But then there's plenty of us left to be able to continue that journey and embed that change and pull forward with what we are meant to be doing, if it is simply to be present and hold the light and anchor the light.
Right, right. So I hate to do this. I know we're coming up on an hour, but you know, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience as like that last thought to leave them with?
Find your place of peace, whatever it is. Don't be so overwhelmed with the fear that is there. Don't embrace it, don't own it, don't let it find a place in your mind and in your heart where it becomes a destructive force. Keep yourself focused on your presence here on this earth at this moment, in whichever capacity that you are able to do. And just find a place of happiness in your heart that you can go to when it becomes too much. That doesn't cost anything. It's simply you making a decision. I'm taking 5 minutes out. I'm taking some time out. And whatever is going on around you that you have no control over, or are able to even find a solution in that moment, you give yourself that 5 minutes, and you'll come back and you'll see the same situation with a different set of eyes, and you'll get the solution. Don't be so hard on yourself. We at this moment, one of the things I'm finding is people are so strong with the negative talk. You need to be able to quieten that person who's constantly telling you you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not doing this right, you should have done this, you could have done that. No, don't listen to them. So
Beautiful.
yeah, but keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things.
Right.
Sitting there with a
So,
cup of tea is just all you need to find your 5 minutes of bliss, which will
yeah,
recharge your battery completely.
absolutely. So share your email.
Ah, yes. My email is blue, as in the color blue, dot orchid, as in the flower, 15 at hotmail.com if you want to contact me.
And I want to thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution and all that you do. This has been a wonderful talk, and I want to reserve the right to have you back.
You can
So,
reserve away. I promise not to take 8 months.
and so if you like this episode, please do subscribe to us and please do share it. And this has been another episode of The
Mm.
Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. So take care for now, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.
Nice things, everybody. Bye bye.